Oh, hello. So, okay, today we're going to talk about the fact that Kill Team Gallowdark sold out in less than 5 minutes. And a lot of people asked me to make this video yesterday, and I was watching the coronation, and I was making the video that did go up yesterday, the tournament report, the PowerPoint for that at the same time, which took a couple of hours. I wanted to get that video done. I feel like that was really good, high quality content. This is just. It's sort of depressing. And I know why people want the video, because Phil will rant about it. I think you're going to be disappointed, but here we go. So what, just in case anyone's unaware and has just clicked on this randomly. So Gallowdark, the fourth box in the second season of Kill Team, sold out on GamesWorkshop.com in the UK by 10 AM. Now there's a lot of people saying, that means it's sold out in less than a minute. I mean, GW pre-orders go live at 9:55. I think should be relatively common knowledge. If you didn't know that, that's probably why you're struggling to pre-order stuff. But there you go. I think it's all out in the US by like 10:05, so it lasted a bit longer. And apparently, like I read somewhere that in some regions it was around till like 12 o'clock. So, it is a regionalized store. So if you're watching the video and thinking, well, what do you mean? I was able to get a copy easily. If you're in Asia or parts of Europe, maybe it lasted a bit longer, I don't know. I never store it in stock at friendly local gaming stores. I checked a lot of them. Apparently normal size friendly local gaming stores got 2 copies. And then large stores, so Dark Sphere, Wayland, Element, etc. got 4 copies. At that level of distribution, like, many stores are going to allow their regulars to make informal pre-orders, right? They shouldn't, I suppose, but they will. If you're someone that comes in every week and you play all your games in a store and you put loads of money behind the till in the store and you buy their like marked up like soda and stuff for their gaming space and you eat their crisps, like of course, if you say, hey, I'm definitely going to buy Kill Team Gallowdark, when it comes out, can you put a copy by for me? Of course, they'll let you make that kind of informal arrangement before 10 AM on the morning of pre-order date. Like, I'm told that some stores didn't, and people asked, and their store owner said, no, I'm putting it on the web. But I'm sure it happens, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing. I don't think it's an unfair thing for stores to prioritize the people who are really keeping the store going day to day, buying their paints and stuff, versus the people that are just clicking around online and maybe buy one release and they're never seen by that store again. It's not me throwing stores under the bus, it's just facts of life. Scalpers. Everybody's got this kind of mental. I've tried to surmise, I think, what most people's mental image of scalpers is in the corner of the screen here. Like, scalpers are assholes, fine. Like, nobody likes a scalper. This isn't me gonna defend the scalpers. It's just, do you know how many Gallowdarks are on eBay, including if you turn on for the completed listings and you count them? It's about 40. Now, it's slightly hard to tell because some people are splitting, and you have to kind of work out how many boxes there are there, but it's about 40. 40 boxes is nothing, right? Like, 40 boxes is nothing. I've got more than 40 people on this is a Kill Team channel with like 1,000 subscribers. I mean, 40 boxes is absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's not the scalpers' fault, and it's not GW's fault for selling to scalpers and not putting in. I put it to you this way: anything Games Workshop could do to combat scalpers, whether they said, there's only, you're only allowed to buy one per customer, or you have to come into store to buy the box, we're not selling it on the web. Whatever they decided to do would end up inconveniencing more than the 40 people that would have got the box in this case. Like, I totally understand the issue with scalpers when it's something that's limited edition, like a novel limited to 2,000 copies. Yes, then it's a big deal. When it's 2,000 copies worldwide, absolutely, scalping is a big deal. A product like this, the scalpers couldn't even get copies, right? Like, the Games Workshop underproduced. There's no other way around it. They did not produce enough copies of Gallowdark to meet the demand for Gallowfall. If I was guessing, they probably produced just about enough to recover the costs of the development of the Votan accessory sprue and the Beastman sprue, right? They probably created enough of a run, the sort of minimum run they could do to recoup their costs and make a minimal profit, right? Because you've got to remember the way Games Workshop works, okay? Every box has like a marginal cost, so the amount that it costs to actually produce the paper, the board and the cardboard, and to print the plastic sprues, but the marginal cost is basically irrelevant. What GW have to worry about is the massive upfront cost of paying the rules team to develop the rules, of paying the sculptors to design the miniatures, and paying the tooling department to come up with the tools, the metal tools for the injection molding of the sprues, right? Once they've met that upfront cost, everything else after that point is profit. So they probably printed the bare minimum to meet their upfront cost, whatever their minimum print order is, and that was it. And why did they do that? Because of Leviathan. The thing is, we're getting a new edition of Warhammer 40,000, and as much as this is a Kill Team channel, like, we live in reality. They Now, you could say, why don't they just slow down, and if Leviathan is going to take over the production schedule like this, just stop producing stuff? Like, that's not better, right? That's not better. Because at least now they're producing more things, people have things to be excited about and think about and talk about, and we will get the stuff in a couple of months. We will get it. It will come out. And I'll talk about that on the next slide, but like, I don't want to pause production when they're ramping up 40k. That would feel worse, right? That would feel like they didn't care about my game. That would mean going to Warhammer Fest to watch the reveals and not having anything to watch because they'd paused production for Leviathan. That would mean not having anything to talk about on my YouTube channel. That would mean all the other bits of the community having nothing to talk about, nothing to say, right? They just couldn't fulfill as many launch boxes for this set as they normally would because of Leviathan, right? Now, this is probably also impact. So today, in the pre-order preview, that's what the new Warcry box is going to pre-order on Saturday. Probably that's going to be hard to find. Ashes of Faith, it's probably going to be hard to find. Any big box, and I'm talking big purely by volume, right, is probably going to be a minimal print run until after they've cleared the warehouse of all their copies of Leviathan. It was exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same, but we had similar problems when Indomitus launched. They had to pivot into an Indomitus made to order because people couldn't get their copies of Indomitus, and that really, really screwed up the production of everything else for months and months and months after Indomitus launched. And so to avoid that, they've tried to front load it this time and make loads of boxes of Leviathan so they can avoid having to do a made to order, because that must absolutely screw up their production lines. Like, Warhammer 40,000 is the most successful thing they do, and a Warhammer 40,000 launch box with plastic Terminators and plastic Sternguard and all these things in, like, anyone who's ever went past a Games Workshop and really looked in the window is probably the target audience for Leviathan. And I'm not saying all this makes it okay, but I hope it makes it understandable, because I've seen a lot of people online getting really, like, angry, like, eye-bulgingly, like, why? They don't want people playing their game, like, why is this happening? Like, how can a company be this stupid? And that level of anger is not good for you, alright? Like, be a bit, like, you've been a bit put out, but it's just the way the world turns, like, that sort of rage is not, like, you couldn't get your toy soldiers in the slightly earlier launch box, but this is the thing, Games Workshop knew they'd underproduced. They knew when they stood in that auditorium and they went through their roadmap that they'd underproduced, because they said every individual Kill Team will be coming out in the summer. So they knew Gallowdark and Ashes of Faith were underproduced, because they knew that we were seeing we're going to get the Votan, and we're going to get the Goats, and we're going to get probably the Inquisition the following quarter in the summer, because they did say a couple of times, like, every individual Kill Team that's not yet out, right? And without those things, all that individual Kill Team means is Hand of the Archon, because all the others are out, right? They knew. They knew they'd underproduced. And then they were like, yeah, okay, we'll release everything separately a month or so later. And now here's the really hard to swallow pill, and I'm probably going to get hate, and I'm probably going to get hate from people who love the channel, but let me just, like, you didn't need Gallowfall. I know, like, this is, like, sounds like some paternalistic, condescending bullshit right now, but just, please, just leave your listening ears open for a minute and leave your thinking brain switched on. If you bought Gallowfall, honestly, how many of you would have it sat in the cupboard for at least a month? How many of you actually needed, and some people do need a set of Into the Dark Terrain, but how many of you actually needed a set of Into the Dark Terrain? Right. You'll be able to pick up your new team and your book in the summer, in the individual team releases. Okay? Be able to get your squats or your goats or whatever you want and the book in a couple of months. Right? If you want a set of Into the Dark Terrain, I've had one, I've been trying to sell one on my Discord forever. I just finally sold it today on a Facebook group, 50 quid. There's loads on eBay of terrain. If you're truly missing Into the Dark Terrain, you wanted an economical way to buy that. It's all over the place. Right? Like, Games Workshop has got us all kind of reprogrammed into believing we have to buy stuff in these early giant boxes and buy things that honestly we don't need. Like, many people who wanted Gallowdark did not need that extra set of terrain, and yet we all wanted it. I understand it. You want it because you've got all the other boxes. You want to line all the boxes up and be like, yeah, I've got all the boxes. I didn't need it. And you probably wanted the team a bit early. And in fairness, and I'm going to do a proper review of them later on, but from what I've seen, it does seem like the goats are very overpowered potentially. And it's quite funny. If you look on the Games Workshop website, they've sold out of Gores and Ungores from Age of Sigmar, because I think all the elite tournament grinders are trying to proxy up a team of goats so they can get some wins and some points before they inevitably get like toned down a little bit in a balanced data slate, right? But unless you really, if you genuinely really needed to be on the bleeding edge of hobby and you were going to get your box and you were going to tear it open and you were going to slam those gores onto your desk and you were going to start building them straight away that day and get them built and get paint on them on release day, and you really were going to be that guy, like, fair, you've been inconvenienced. Your hobby's been delayed by a month or so. And I'm not trying to say that's not nothing. That is not nothing. And in some ways it's easy for me to say because I'm not enthused about this box, and I decided I wasn't getting it. And maybe I would feel different if it was, if this was a box with like Sisters of Battle or Inquisition in. Well, we'll come to that in a minute, right? And then you'd be upset not to have, and you see other people online with it, right? And I know that people like Andy and Crit have got a lot of, I don't want to say hate, but a lot of people have been like, well, they've got a box. I haven't got a box. They've got a box. Why have they got a box? Why do they deserve a box? They got a box for free. I can't even buy a box. Like, leave them alone. Leave them alone. It's not their fault that GW does random things that GW does. It's not their fault. Like, in the same way that 40 scalped copies don't really make a difference, like, 10, 15 influencer copies really don't make a difference. And you're like, oh, well, that, everyone's got this kind of picture of their own exceptionalism, like, that could have been my copy. Yeah, but it wasn't going to be, was it? It wasn't going to be, because you probably didn't even know that the pre-orders went live at 9:55, or you were probably one of the people that was going to try and get it from your local FLGS or Element or someone like that. Like, I'm not trying to be mean about it, but it doesn't make a massive difference. They underproduced. They should have produced more. They've hurt themselves. They've made the economic calculation of like, well, if we produce 20 of the, if we produce X of these, we can produce Y fewer, Leviathan boxes, and they're going to make more on the Leviathan boxes. It's just business stuff. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, I get it. I do. But most of us are probably going to buy Leviathan as well. And how upset would you be if you couldn't get a copy of Leviathan? Like, and then you get the argument of, well, they should just stop. They should just pause. But if they pause, the game loses energy. People don't know what to talk about. They've got no releases to think about and anything. Genuinely, it's not been handled perfectly, but it's not as bad as everybody's making out. Because they're going to come out in the summer as individual releases. It's like if you'd missed. It's like they do those FOMO boxes, don't they? For like the Lizardmen recently, right? and it has like one of each of the new releases in and a book and the book special edition. And you buy that, and if you miss it, you miss it, and you're not that fussed because you know you're going to get the eventual release of all the other things, and all you've missed really is the joy of getting the stuff like a month or two early. And that is the same boat we are in and have kind of always been in with these big Kill Team sets, but somehow we've convinced ourselves that we have to buy the big boxes. And hell, our FOMO boxes, right, these big Kill Team sets, they don't even come with a limited edition codex in the same way that the 40k and the Age of Sigmar early boxes do. So, look, I am sorry if you didn't get your box. Like, that sucks. It does. And I'm not trying to make you feel wrong for being angry or make you feel belittled or talked down to. What I'm trying to just do is give you a bit of time to reflect and be like, actually, what I don't need to be doing is carrying around all the negative feelings that this has generated in me. Like, just let it out. Let it go. Don't cling on to the useless anger that's just making you have all kinds of physiological symptoms that you probably don't need. You know, anger itself is quite a negative state. It's a failure state of the brain, right? I am a bit worried about Ashes of Faith, and I know this is going to sound like a massive hypocrite, right? And it's like, oh, well, Phil, you know, you like Inquisitors, so yeah, you're worried. You weren't worried about the Goats and Squats box, because you don't like Goats and Squats, and you're worried about the Ashes of Faith box, because Inquisition are in it, and you want those. Like, maybe a tiny bit in the back of my brain, and like the lizard part of my brain, that's true. But what worries me a little bit about Ashes of Faith is, it's going to have the two teams in, it's going to have the orange book in, and they're all going to come out separately, and that's no problem. But alongside the orange book, it has this brand new thing, this red book, and all these cards, and the actual campaign system. And I would like the campaign system part of this box to be something that people, you know, that's the bit I worry about kind of disappearing down a black hole. The actual two-player narrative campaign is the bit that I really worry about disappearing down a black hole. And then people are like, oh, since when are you a narrative player? Well, a lot of things that put me off narrative play is that, like, a traditional Kill Team narrative campaign, you need, like, a pod of, like, 4 or 5 people to make it cool. This is actually legitimately just a two-player thing. Well, my wife plays. We're the legitimately target market for this, I think, to go through and play our two-player game. I think we'll have a lot of fun with it if we can get a copy of the box with the rules. So I'm more worried about that. And I know it goes to my preferences, and I can't deny that's probably a tiny part of it somewhere, like, you know, bias and stuff, but I don't want those narrative rules to fall down the black hole of not existing. And it's quite possible to me. I think they've probably produced 6 copies of this box, and it's not going to be a thing you can get hold of, right? So, okay, how many of you, like, let me know, did you get Gallowfall? Did you want it and not get it? Like, let me know in the comments. Oh, and how are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about that then? How are you feeling about that now? Probably people are annoyed with me because I didn't go off on a rant and like hold Games Workshop to account and shout and do all the things and call them dumb assholes who can't even run a company and why they're behaving like a small company and all this sort of stuff. And actually, in this instance, they're not behaving like a small company. They're behaving like the giant PLC they are and going, well, we have a shelf. The shelf can carry this many things. We should put this many Leviathans on that shelf because that's guaranteed money, right? That's guaranteed money. Whereas the Gallowfall, like people were saying before it came out, like, oh, we don't think Gallowfall's been going to be that popular. They must have known it wasn't going to be so popular, or at least that it was a risk because it doesn't have an Imperial team in it. They've underproduced it. It's a bit shit, right? I get it, but it's not the end of the world. You'll be able to get the stuff that you want in 4-5 weeks. Like, if I've not mortally offended you, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. If I have mortally offended you, then dislike, still comment, but tell me to hurt myself or something, and unsubscribe, I guess, and then we'll know. Yeah. All right. Cheery. Bye. Have a great day. Bye bye. Bye bye bye. Bye bye.